The weather plays an important part in any outdoor sport, and harness racing is certainly no exception. Fast times and competitive finishes are almost always recorded on a fast track, one which is almost completely dry. When the rain begins to fall or just after it has stopped, the track is said to be in good condition. The track has a somewhat muddy consistency and is 1 or 2 seconds slower than a fast track. When the rain is coming down and the sulkies leave speedboat-like wakes on the surface, the track is said to be sloppy. Times are 3 or 4 seconds slower than those recorded on a fast track. The size of the purse for which it races is a good indicator of how much ability a horse may have. After all, good horses are called good simply because they can earn more money than their peers. So when looking at the past performances, look at the purse money a horse has been racing for, and it will give a clear indication of its ability. It may be impossible to determine whether a race for $10,000 claimers is better than non-winners of 4 races, but it becomes infinitely clearer when you know the purse paid in each race. The richer event draws the better horse. There are, however, exceptions. Younger horses, especially those who are held in high regard, may start their careers by racing in stakes races, those which carry the highest purses of all. Harness horses are remarkably consistent in the times they record over the mile distance from start to start, but they can record slower or faster times due to several factors. Track conditions play a part. They can be wet and slow, making times slower, and cold weather can have the same effect, even when a track is listed as fast. Times are also affected by class. A horse who can pace a mile in 1:58 may go faster against horses who usually race in 1:56. What happens, as we say, is that the slower horse is sucked along, although rarely winning in the faster mile. Fractional times are also very important. The times you see in your program at the quarter, half, and 3/4 are those recorded by the leader and not necessarily those actually recorded by the horse you are considering. As a rule of thumb, look for a horse who races on or near the top of the pack through fast early fractions who can still come on and win in a fast time. Also, look for a horse that can race fast fractions early and late. The last quarter-mile time is also listed for each race in the program, and a fast closer is almost always a fit horse and a good bet. The post position is the point behind the starting gate from which a horse starts its race. Since the shortest way and fastest way around the racetrack is best, the horse who draws an inside post has an advantage, and on a track with a smaller circumference, a truly great advantage. Half-mile tracks demonstrate a statistical edge that goes to the horses in posts 1 through 4. That edge is a little less pronounced on a 5/8 mile track, and while not altogether eliminated on a 3/4, 7/8, or mile track, the bias is certainly a lot less. A horse drawing a post position closer to the rail this week will get an increased advantage, especially if that horse has demonstrated a lot of early speed. A horse that races from behind will gain an advantage from an inside post as well, but will improve most when moving from a smaller size track to a larger one, which has a long home stretch where early disadvantages may be overcome. The points of call are the horse's racing positions at various stages of the race. Collectively, they paint a picture of what a horse did during the race, whether it led or trailed, whether it was outside or on the rail, and whether it suffered interference or made a break in stride. During the race, a trained observer known as a charter lists the position of each horse at the quarter-mile, half-mile, and 3/4 points of call. The horse's position at the top of the home stretch is also noted, as is the finishing position. The positions and estimates of the length separating a horse from the others are compiled in a standard manner by racing officials, and at the finish, the lengths are recorded with absolute precision by the photo finish camera. The points of call reveal important patterns, whether a horse has early speed, showing a lot of 1s at the early calls, or if the horse consistently closes the margin in the late stages of its races. A key to calculating times and determining exactly where each horse raced in relation to the other competitors is the assigning of beaten lengths at each of the points of call. An experienced official observes and records the details of each and every race at every track and estimates the beaten lengths, something that is done by standards set in the rules of racing and by experience. A length is measured from the tip of the nose to the end of the rump. The sulky and driver are not considered, so a horse racing directly behind the other is actually about a length and a quarter behind the other. Times can be calculated using beaten lengths. One length equals 1/5 of a second, and that tells you why times are recorded in fifths of a second in the sport of harness racing. So a horse 5 lengths off the leader at the quarter pole reaches that pole 1 second later. 1/5 of a second is added for each beaten distance of more than 1/2 length. Thus, a horse a half length behind another at a given point is judged to have reached that point in identical time. If you calculate your horse's actual quarter times, you'll have a clearer picture of how it raced in its most recent efforts, and can compare those efforts to those posted by the other competitors it will face this time out.